Yo, what is up, YouTube family? It's K right here. I'm back at it with another good video for you guys today. And, yeah, man, let's talk about it, man. This will go up on my other pages, but, I'm gonna be talking about the real truth of, behind racism and why racism is only a problem when the state uses violence for it. So, yeah, let's get right into it. This should be a pretty interesting video. I'm gonna try to keep this as short as I can. But the truth of the matter is that when people argue about racism, they obviously say that racism is a problem when certain racial ethnic groups obviously apply violence the way they want to do it in the eyes of oppressing other people, whether that's using words, that's using any forms of means of violence where there could be social riots against certain people of inferior races in which I don't even look at it like that. It's more like one group obviously wants to oppress the other group in any way of dehumanizing a person's racial creed and origin. And the thing is that no matter what you want to say, the truth of racism is rooted behind the state. The state is the true culprit behind this. Whenever people talk about racist, countermeasures that people have done to one another, that's all been enacted by the state. Whenever you see any of the racist history that you've seen here in America, where people always try to flip back to white people hurting black people, but then, they always turn like the blind eye to like any other racial groups out here, whether that's Hispanics beating on black people or black people doing it to each other. Obviously, that's not right. American Indians, they could be racist. Like, I mean, anybody is prone to be racist in the world. That's not a problem on a social level. The problem is that on a well, I would say on a political level, when you look at racism alone, the real root of racism is the arbitrary violence that is backed with it. And no matter what any of you weirdos that want to comment down below to say, oh, you've never been through what I've been through, here's the thing. If you are going to play double standard for what happened back in the, early 1900s or late 1800s, and then you want to say, oh, well, these certain people need to get certain justice for what they want, but these other people don't need to get justice because they're quote unquote privileged, then you're racist yourself. Because you want to know why? These are the same weirdos that want equality and they don't understand what they're advocating for. They don't understand that you're still part of what the issue of what the state already promoted. So you're doing what the state already, programmed you to do. You're doing the same thing what other racist people at the time of these racist time frames of where countries were not going through the right motion and people were getting killed for the wrong reasons that was obviously protected by the state. The thing is that when people want to argue about racism, they don't understand that the state is the culprit of protecting it. We can even go back here in America with black Americans getting lynched, getting tortured, castrated, burned. That's all protected by the state. Without statism, this would never happen. Black people, would have the ability to come together, to decentralize with one another, to help each other out, where no white man or no evil piece of crap individual would have the ability to do that to somebody. But the reason why people don't want to talk about that and actually push beyond that to quote unquote remove racism is that the state enacts the fear within people of the oppressors, fooling the minds of the oppressed to keep that power, within, the state's, control. There's a reason why you see people wanting to divide with other people, have these evil intentions to hurt one another and do the things that no regular sane human being would ever want to do, because no person is confident enough to get a gun and point it at their friends and family to do the things what the state does. where you're hurting innocent people, you are enforcing your will and you're making people into slaves. That's the nature of the state. Statism is a very evil philosophy where the violence and the divide and conquer methodologies are applied in a principle axiomatically, in a sense where applications in social or political or economic interactions are all destroyed and broken down. But the thing is that when we talk about racism, most people in the world that are not educated on racism alone only look at the things that they want to be mad at. Yeah, you're just mad at certain things that happen to other people, but are we really going to just not like look at the real root of it? And the real root of it is that racism is only a problem when the state uses violence with it. And people want to say, oh, that's not true because that the state has created policies to protect people being oppressed by racism. But that's not true either, because if the state is supposed to be the savior of people that are going through certain countermeasures in their lives, that are being hurt in a certain situation of being quote unquote oppressed and being racially attacked, then what's the point of having a state? The state is like the worst thing that you could ever have in terms of a evil organization backed by political psychopaths that will come out of their way and do the things that you guys say that you don't want. Like, for me, like, I want to have protection in my own community. I want to have the things that I want. But if I'm not able to compete with my own services and have the ability to decentralize on my own, then there's a reason why actual anarchism alone is stronger than statism. And it shows that anarchism always wins because all roads lead back to human autonomy and self-reliance. So those are the core principles of becoming, anarchic of yourself, to not have somebody tell you what to do. But when great minds think alike, champions of liberty will emerge out of, you know, status oppression that will eventually die on its own when people have woken up against it. And the thing is that people can say what they want, but no state, no state of civilization has ever freed anybody in any means of promoting quote unquote equality and justice, because there's no such thing as equality. Um, I could even talk about that in another video, but the thing is that when people want to talk about the idea that, we need to have this, we need to have that, so therefore government should do this and that, they don't understand that the state is the culprit of making these problems happen. And until people realize that, that is where the root of racism, which is, a very minor subnet issue in the world, that would be resolved, because that's your main culprit. It's not just one group of people that just freely comes out of their way to be quote unquote racist and do the things that people want them to have the mindset of thinking racist people get away with everything. And it's not true. Like, I'll even say it like this. I'll give out a great example. There's this one guy. I think he had like 4 or 5 plus acres out in North Dakota. And the thing about this was that he was a very racist dude. He was part of the KKK here in the States. And the thing was is that he was trying so hard to get a lot of people to come into his, community that he was trying to build. He was trying to create like he was trying to make like an all white racist community. It was just, it was just like a bunch of lame ass shit. And the thing was is that he tried to convince everyone to live, with him. So therefore, there could be like a massive community of people that are like like-minded KKK members and whatnot, and they could take over the, like the city council and everything. But long behold, nobody didn't want to associate with him, and he just ended up pissing off away. And I'm pretty sure he's dead now. But like people like that just get automatically canceled out. And what's up the reason behind this? So what I'm saying is that the real um the real tool to kill any means of status slash oppressionary version well oppression based versions of racism that could be a threat to you is to ignore it and also fight against it in mostly a non-violent peaceful manner. But if need be, you should use self-defense in the means of hurting someone that tries to put their hands on you or try to kill you in the event of being attacked. And the thing is that I think that's a clear example of using social ostracism to blacklist people in a certain way where they're not able to associate with anyone else. And I think that's the beauty of using decentralized ethics, of being, how should I say, of being self reliant and vigilant against bad actors that want to use violence, of utilizing racism as a tool by the means of using statism. And if people are woken up against it, then the state loses its power automatically. That is how state governments are able to do the things that you guys obviously don't like to see. You obviously don't like seeing people lynch. You don't like seeing people get beat up in the streets. You don't like seeing people get sent to certain literary, schools where they have certain, divisive countermeasures to divide certain people by racial backgrounds. And the thing is that racism is still being administered by the state by all the policies that you see. I can even say with what you see on your application when you fill out a job application here in America at least, and when they have that section when they ask you, okay, what's your ethnic background? The reason why the reason why that is applied is because the state wants to know how many people are demographically located within an area so they could utilize certain policies against certain people to hurt other people, to divide them. That's why when you look at these weird censuses of people's ethnic background, they're not really so, how should I say, they're not accurate with what they're saying. They're obviously saying a bunch of crazy nonsense to basically generalize what people are. But the thing is that you can't like get every single person's ethnic background, listed correctly. So when they have these certain words like white or, American European descent or people of quote unquote African American, which is just, black Afro African descent, of black American descent. And then, they have the same thing with Pacific Asian Islander or, American Indian. And, they have the other box, not every job has that in there, job application, but most places do have the other sign where you could just put that down. But the reason why they do that is obviously because the state enforces a monopolized arbitrational rule to say that you must put that down. So therefore they know who you are, so they can put you on record to know what you do. So therefore they can invade your privacy, enforce certain rules and regulations against people that are not doing anything wrong until the state does wrong, and therefore everyone gets mad for the sake of political propaganda, for the means of being divided more. And the thing is that people don't want to say that the state does all these bad things. They always try to hide away from the idea that the state is never a proponent of promoting racism. But if I have to give out more examples of like many other civilizations in the world that has done more horrendous racist policies to innocent people. I mean, I don't want to do it, but I will say it. But I'll just give out a really great example. Like I think in Malaysia, they have a policy written in their constitution where people of Chinese descent are basically considered second class human beings, and therefore they are segregated every single day. Like these people that have Chinese blood that live in Malaysia are constantly being discriminated, and it's very sad. But people don't want to talk about that because they say, oh no, racism only exists in certain parts of the world. So, whenever it's like white people doing it to black people, no, that's fine to call out racism, but it's not but it's not fine to call out racism when other people of their own racial heritage basically disrespects and discriminates people of the same skin color, i.e., Asians discriminating other Asians, or Africans discriminating other Africans, or anybody. Like I can even talk about Guyana's crazy ass policy, where the state came out of their way to force people of I think like Indian descent, people from India, like basically black people wanted to take out the Indian homeowners, properties where people had property in certain areas of Guyana, and but the black people that were in power, quote unquote, were trying to eliminate them and basically use any means of asset forfeiture to take away their property by way of preeminent domain and force those people that they had tribal conflicts with, i.e., the people from, I guess, like West India, right? I don't even know what to really call that because I don't think Guyanese people really have American Indians, which I'm pretty sure they do. But the thing is that like Guyana is like a mix of like people from, I guess, the continent, like the continent of India, or from the country of India, and then you have like the Africans that are there, and basically, it's a whole civil war mess. That's obviously administered by the state, and the state does that for the sake of making people divided and putting people in those situations where they're being disrespected. And it's sad. It's not right that people go through that shit, and sadly, the thing is that no matter what we try to say about racism, not being the root of statism, enforcing it, people don't understand what real racism is until racism points a gun at you. And then once you understand that the state is the culprit of all the situations that people want to argue about, then that's what will happen. Like, I'm not really the one to really talk about racism a lot, but the thing is like throughout my years of living, yes, I've been through some times where some racist weirdos try to mess with me, and I don't let that shit phase me. But as I got older, I made sure nobody doesn't do that to me, and that's just only the issue when someone wants to put their hands on me, and you have to stand up for yourself. You can't just expect someone else to do it for you, and the state's not going to do it for you. And the truth of what the matter is, when people, stand up against, the true culprit, i.e., the state that enforces racism, that is when racism alone will be defeated. Where government is the true culprit of creating the massive division and the depressing ideals of thinking that life is terrible because of all this unnecessary violence that people get applied to every single day in the world globally. And as long as it continues to have a violent, monopolized arbitrator to do all these bad things that people say that that the state wouldn't do, then it just goes back into square one where when you don't support the initiation of force, but you have certain exceptions to it. Just that little bit of, that little bit of evil, that is allowed to be applied in regular human application, creates massive bad actors and a lot of criminal, discussing behavior against, certain people that people have racial disputes over. But furthermore, racism alone will be defeated when statism is defeated. So, I mean, that's really like my whole take on that. Like I'm not here to play, devil's advocate to just be lying to people and just saying a bunch of nonsensical stuff. Like I could have definitely went longer in this video to talk about other aspects of racism, but the thing is that, racism alone is really not that big of an issue until state actors come into the picture, and that's where people want to talk about racism. And all these things where people say like, oh, the cops are doing this, and other state actors alone, like I say, are doing quote unquote evil racist things. The state is the biggest proponent of evil that enforces its will to protect themselves, to do bad things to innocent people. So if people want to not see that ever at all, you have to look at the main culprit that is doing it, and that is government doing it. So, yeah, that's pretty much my little TED talk. I wanted to get that off my chest because it is a bit weird that people don't want to talk about it, but I'll be the one of very few people in the world to talk about this, and eventually I think our voices will be stronger and we will win at the end of the day. So, yeah, I'll see you guys at the victory party. And yeah, peace, love, liberty, happiness, and I will see you guys later. Mercatus Volt, and goodbye. Peace out, guys. Hope you guys have a great day.